crazy windstorm. Maybe that played a part. But how come?
Good afternoon to you once again. Brandon Robinson back with another special report. We are going to go live to the Hazard Airport shortly, but not quite yet. The Wendell Ford Airport, where several members of the Senate are going to be meeting with basically local elected officials to give an update on what's going on locally. We're not sure exactly if they flew in, but I'm not sure if they took a damage tour, an aerial damage tour. Several senators, including Senate President Robert Stivers, this is state Senate, by the way, from Manchester, Senator Brandon Smith from Hazard, and then again, some other senators there, Johnnie Turner from R-Harlan and Chris Fugate from R-Chavies here in Perry County. And I'm looking at the media advisory now. Basically, it looks like they just came in to just do a news conference and give the latest on some flood relief efforts there. We're being told it should happen pretty soon, but we haven't heard anything substantial just yet. But it's a Q&A is what I'm being told, a question and answer session, just trying to get the word out about what they've been doing, what the legislature has been doing, the state legislature, since the disaster declaration by President Biden back on the 29th. Let's go ahead while we're waiting and take a look at some temperatures right now. And this is why all of this today is very important. They're getting hotter by the minute. There is temperatures out there, especially in parts of the Lake Cumberland area, that are already close to 90, and we're not even at 1 o'clock yet. So again, very warm out there. Heat advisory went into effect about 52 minutes ago for a big chunk of the area, including all of the flood-ravaged counties from Pike to Clay, and those go through tomorrow night, not through tonight, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, just making sure that the folks who are still cleaning up from this devastating flooding almost a week ago basically have the knowledge and foresight that it was going to be hot, that it was turning more to a heat event instead of a rain event, and that they needed to kind of take heat precautions to make sure that they're staying safe even during all of this. And let's talk about those heat precautions real quick. Check on those without air conditioning. Last check, 5,000 plus, still without power from Kentucky Power there, and a lot of those in Perry County, more than 2,400, I believe, last check there. I haven't checked it in a little while, but it was at least 2,400 a little earlier, and we're continuing to kind of see that situation unfolding here. A lot of damage across several counties here locally. Hazard Airport, one of the closest locations to fly into for state legislators there, to the damage path there. And again, we're going to be hearing from them here shortly. But if you're outside today, try to do your best to stay cool. That's staying hydrated. I know that there's water coming in. You may not have it yet, but if you do have it, make sure you're staying hydrated, especially if you're doing any work outside. If you have any sunscreen, if you manage to, get some of that, or it didn't get washed away in the flood, which was devastating. Actually, earlier, Governor Beshear called it the most devastating flooding event the state has ever seen. So that's to give you how catastrophic of an event this was almost a week ago tonight. Hard to believe it's been a week already there. And again, 37 dead. We'll come back out on camera there for a second. 37 dead, 8 in Breathitt County, 2 in Clay County, 17 in Knott County, including 4 kids from the same family, 3 people in Letcher County, and 7 people from Perry County. Couldn't read my own handwriting there for a second. I've been making notes on all of these news conferences so we can give you the highlights of all of those. So again, we are continuing to wait for this news conference to start. It's between 4 state senators, including the Senate Majority President. What now? Okay, we're going to go opt out to that news conference. We believe somebody is talking.
Questions specifically about relief efforts here in Eastern Kentucky.
Well, folks, listen, thank you all for showing up, and we're going to be brief because this really is not about us. But there's been a tremendous amount of work that has taken place right where you stand, and I think a lot of these people deserve to be recognized. And you all deserve to know a lot of the people that are the unsung heroes for me and many of us in the Senate, the House, and Representatives. I'd like to thank Triton Air. They have provided us with their building and access to all the facilities they have here. They've had their entire staff and crew helping us. Stephen Barker, who is the head of this company and a good friend of mine, has just called and said, whatever you need, let us know, make yourself at home, which we have, and we want to give them a shout out. I want to thank Tabitha. Where's Tabitha? And all these girls back here. I want you to see this group right here when we got hit at the very hardest point of this whole crisis. When we had families in here covered in mud, they didn't have clothes on. We had children. We had people screaming because their kids had been pulled out of their arms and were missing. And they came in here. And this group we had no food in here. The bathrooms in here do not work. So we've been going down the hill getting water from the pools to flush the restrooms for all of our servicemen in here. We had no supplies, we had nothing, and yet we had people out there in the front of this place washing their feet and their clothes and their hands up and their shoes with bottled water. And within just a few minutes of getting on Facebook and telling people we needed help, you see, all of this came, didn't it, girls? I mean, we didn't have anything. And I want Tabitha to come up here. I want you to see this lady. This is my hero. This is somebody that really put it together. And just tell everybody hello, and some of you tell them who all your girls are that have helped.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without everyone here, but this is the most devastating thing I've ever seen, but I've never seen anything like it. Kids coming in here just needing their feet washed, you know, caked mud, and all the ladies back here, Michelle, Fran, Sis, and Sarah, we've made sure everybody's been cooked for, fed, anything they needed, and even Mr. Smith here has washed feet right along with us.
That's exactly right.
And we couldn't have done it without him. I mean, everybody has been awesome here. So.
But I wanted to make sure that you all knew that a lot of the stuff you see there now we did not have at our disposal when it happened. But our community filled these rooms in here. They brought us water. We still don't have water, but we have big jugs to help us continue to have activity here. The food that you saw in there was brought in here to feed these men and women in the uniform behind us that are our heroes. That'll be loading up as soon as our show gets done and right back out there taking care of people. All this water that's been brought and donated to us goes out to parts of this devastated area that the ground crew won't get to for weeks probably in many cases. So I just can't say enough. There's a couple of people that I want to make sure that we do cover because through their efforts, Patty Fugate is another, just has been a hard driving helper with us here. But the Hazard Perry County Airport Board has helped us with this, and the Perry County Conservation District. Our county judges, and we have a few of them here that are going to speak, Scott Alexander, Judge Lewis, and we have Judge Noble with us, and Judge Dobson, and Chris, you guys can help me, somebody else. I don't want to miss anybody because there's been so many people help us. But with this said, I want to turn it over to Judge Noble, if he wants to come on up here. I believe from what I've seen, and I think I can say without shadow of a doubt that I've probably been in every single landing zone that we've had. I've been to every drop site, every single place we've got out there, and I feel like his county's probably been hit the worst. And so I'm going to turn it over to him and let him make some comments to you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Brendan. And you know, the reason I'm up here today, or I will be down, and I'm quick as I get done, I'm heading back down to the county. But Senator Smith got me on a flight this morning, and we just got done going through the Cleo area and Caney area and Watts area, and didn't make it out toward 30 East or over toward Bowlings Creek, but it just devastates me to see what pain our people's going through. Actually, when we was in Cleo, they was doing a body pickup, found another body, but you know, I'm thankful that the Lord put me in this position to do this. Right. And I want everybody to know that we'll do everything we can. I can't express how much love and support's been showed out. Pastor Chris Fugate here, state representative, he's got so many people from Breathitt County up there, just opened his church doors for them, and American Red Crosses came in, and Wolfe County has allowed us to use their place for shelter because our school just wasn't a place to do it because of flooding. And but you know, in my staff and workers, I mean, they've worked nonstop, and they're still working nonstop, and we'll continue to do that until every holler's open and every road's open. And but you know, I'm just devastated beyond words, really, and just thankful for the support that the governor has shown. And transportation, we have got 3 different transport districts actually in Breathitt County alone trying to punch roads in and out, and it just breaks my heart when I get a text. I got a text just saying need water and gas or medical supplies, and the roads don't know when we can even get in there. They're gonna walk some supplies into them because there are no roads to build, and it's just one bad story after another. We had absolutely no phone service. Even when the flood started, I declared a state of emergency. We opened up our courthouse around 9:30 for shelter. And then we lost all power, lost all phone, lost all cell service, and still don't have a lot of power, and no power in a lot of places, and no cell phone period, and we don't even know who's trapped. But people's finally making their ways out, and but we'll get through this thing. But I appreciate y'all being here, and anybody who wants to donate to this cause, I mean, it couldn't be a better cause because it's never been a time, I don't think, in the history of Breathitt County that we're facing right now. And
are there phone numbers you want to give?
Phone number for sure is 606-666-3800, extension 224. That's the courthouse in my office. Our emergency management guy is 606-568-6564 to report roads or anything. Either one of these numbers can do this, but my road department is 606-666-3815 or 568-1409. Any of those numbers, get in touch with me where we can get supplies to you, food to you. We'll get it somehow. It have to be walked in. We'll make sure they get it. So, but I just appreciate y'all and keep us in your prayers.
Thank you, Judge. Next, we have State Representative Chris Fugate. Chris is Gospel Light. Has been handling a lot of the families we've had that've come through here. If we did not have his place to take them to with the other ones, I don't really know what we would have done. But Chris, thank you for everybody that you took from here. And I know you guys had more than you could handle, but we want to thank you personally for all that you've done. But Representative Chris Fugate.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I tell you one thing I've saw the last 6 days is not just devastation, but I've saw a lot of people come together and on behalf of all those that live here, and not just here, a lot of people from outside, and running the shelter there at our church, Gospel Light Baptist Church. We opened up on Thursday morning, and we've had probably 250 people total that's came through the shelter. We've got about 65 there right now, and may have 25 more coming. And it's just been, it's been good to see all the things that's been going on. Senator Smith out here flying on the missions and the rescues, and the first lady that came into our church was a 94-year-old lady, no socks, no shoes, rescued by the helicopter, and just need a place to come in and dry up and get some socks and clothes, and so it's been a blessing to see and to have a phone that never stops. For one time, I'm thankful the phone never stops, because there's people from Western Kentucky who just went through this with tornadoes are now bringing things that's left over from the tornadoes, coming into Eastern Kentucky to give us what they have left over, and saying we just went through something similar a few months ago, and we know what it's like to lose everything, and we come to be a help. To those who have lost everything, and and people from Alabama, Litchfield, Kentucky. We just got 3 trailer loads, 28-foot trailer loads from Georgetown Motorsports. Just brought in. There's been items brought in from everywhere, and so as a state representative, my district is hit hard. I cover Breathitt and Perry and Owsley, and 2 of those counties are really devastated. And so, but we need to just pray that God helps us through this. He will. And East Kentucky is a good bunch of people, and we love each other, and we'll build back stronger. We really will. We'll come together, and you know, people of all people have lost things. People that you know, just everybody, churches, and we'll be all right though. I think we'll be all right, and I think Senator Smith and Senator Stivers, President Stivers, would echo that. East Kentucky's a great place to live, and we'll be all right. And we appreciate everybody's help.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we have Senator Turner. His area is also affected by it, and Senator Turner, we appreciate you.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I just reaffirm what they all both have said, and the judge. I have Floyd, Knott, and Letcher counties that are devastated. The place we just last landed, those people can't get nobody to them or out. Can't even get a four-wheeler. So that's how bad and drastic this is in the counties, and it's the same way in the other counties, not just, we were in Knott County there, and it's over in Letcher County. I've toured some of, by road in Letcher and Knott counties already, and I'm working with the county judges. I've got some of my own equipment I'm offered to bring over and let, like this fella, to open the road there if that's what it takes. Those are what have you. It's just devastation that you can't imagine until you get up in that helicopter like we did today and see it all, where you got houses that was 4 or 5 of them, and they're just splintered earth there, where you got a house washed down on top of another house. Cars, it's kind of like I was explaining somebody, it's kind of like your kids playing with toys, the houses and the cars, and when they get dumped to put in the box to put up, that's the way some of the communities that you saw from the air today will look like. And it's just unbelievable. I go back to the 57 flood, the 77 flood. My mother walked in water this deep in the 57 flood trying to salvage things out of the basement at the house we were in. So this one exceeded and topped the 57 flood, and it's just unbelievable. I really appreciate the press. I'll have to say, I was sick at home and got a text from a fellow that sold me insurance and said, I saw you all on TV. That was one of the times I was over in, and he said, where do I send donations to? I said, send it to any that the press tells you, because they're all in this together. You know, you've got the UK, you've got the basketball, you've got everybody that's starting these things. So you press, please, 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 keep putting those facilities that they can send to, what they can send. I'll put out this media the best you can to help this, because people are sending it from everywhere. And you all are the voice that does that. We've not had phone service in a lot of these communities. You can't contact people. But I'm going to do as best I can to work with the senators that you're seeing here with us, and do the best we can to do whatever we can to get these people back. The other thing to tell them on the news is FEMA is coming in here, and one of the things they tell them is do not change your status of your home or whatever until you take pictures of it. Go inside, take every picture, so you've got the proof. I know there's a limit on the amount they will pay, but they need that to put in the paperwork and the forms to expedite and speed up the process. So that you press can please do that to let all the public know that. I know there's not a lot of TV out yet, but it'll be back. And this thing's going to go on going. So I look forward to working with everybody, continuing to do everything we can to put these people back in their place, and saying prayers every day and every night for them.
Thank you, Senator Turner. Also, we had with us earlier, we had Representative Tackett Lafferty with us, and Representative Angie Hatton. They were with us to be able to get in and look at some places in their district and get out and drop off supplies. And I see we've got Senator Douglas with us. He came in from Lexington to just help us out, which we really, really appreciate. And Senator Stivers is getting ready to come up. But I want to point out that I haven't been doing interviews. I think you all know that. We've been too busy working, and honestly, we didn't want to do them because to have to do it, it took away from our mission. But there's a story that's critical to be told here, and so we wanted you all to see that this stuff gets put together. These bags that you see here, if you just look at all the stuff that gets put in there, the thought that goes into that, each one of these ladies have tried to think of what would a community need. And that's a really tough exercise, because you're thinking about children and elderly and sanitation and just your basic needs, to try to put all of humanity in a bag. But I want to point out with this bag, I've seen a lot of people come through here. I've seen a lot of cameras get on helicopters, and I've seen them fly all over the place and spend all kinds of fuel. Senator Stivers and all of us today have not gone to any of these places that we didn't take supplies with us. So we haven't been flying around with cameras trying to get some op. Is that not straight up the truth? Every place we have gone into has been a fully loaded group, and everybody on that craft gets off. For those of you that have gone with us, that everybody works. And I think that makes a difference. So I appreciate what you are doing here, but I want you to know this is still a working mission. Every one of us will be right back to work as soon as you all leave. So don't forget about us. Make sure that you tell what's happening here. And I want to bring up Senator Stivers.
How many flights have y'all made?
Oh, we're probably 250. But I want Senator Stivers to come up because he's already been working his tail off with us today, as you can tell from the sweat on us.
Let me take this from a little bit different perspective. You can't comprehend the massiveness of the destruction until you just did what we did. We've had discussions starting Thursday morning. I have Clay County. It had an isolated hit. It was just as damaging for that part of the county, but it was not countywide like it has been in Breathitt or Perry or Letcher or not. I spent the weekend, minor damage compared to others, working in my father-in-law's house and stripping out the carpet and pushing the mud out and getting the furniture and the HVAC and the piping underneath. And so I tell you that you know, you get up in the morning, you go to the Oneida area, you work on staging, you have the 7:30 call. What do you need? What do we need to focus on? What roads need to be open? What houses don't have water? What houses don't have electric? What houses need access to get oxygen, food, or other supplies to them? Then you go and do whatever you do through the day, and you come back in at the end of the night and you sit down and say, did we do everything we talked about first thing in the morning? You know, this is the type of concerted effort that's going on with judges and state representatives, the governor's office, Senator McConnell's office, Congressman Rogers, all the way to the White House. But as you go through this, individuals being well-intentioned are sending a lot of things. They need to focus on what the real needs are here, and hopefully the media can get that out. What you see here are packages that people need, they've asked for. Cleaning supplies, toiletries, things to sanitize. This water can be contaminated water depending on where it came from. They need non-perishable food items. Those non-perishable food items, and I'm not going to compete with there we go. The non-perishable food items are because some people don't have electricity. They don't have a refrigerator or a freezer. MREs now become a valuable commodity. MREs, meals ready to eat, the military rations. You know, those types of things need to be focused on, and people are sending a lot of things, and well-intentioned. But if they really want to make an effort, they need to reach out to a county judge, to a legislator, to the EOC to say, what is it that needs to be focused on to make a real difference? And I'll tell you, these ladies, food, you know, so you can feed the people who are working here and take care of them. These young men haven't been home in 5 days. They've been brought in from all over the state to work this, and they're on these helicopters. But I'll finish with this. This is just the beginning of the recovery. You're probably going to hear that the overall damage far exceeds any natural disaster we've had. And so we will get done. I'll wait till this. I'm not going to try to compete with a helicopter. They win. was saying, this is just the beginning. You know, there's been search and rescue, and there's still search and rescue. There's going to be recovery, and there's going to be rebuild. We've already had discussions about potential special sessions, appropriations to aid and assist people. The fact that the federal government has declared that they will do individual assistance. I hope you all can reach out to the governor's office and our federal delegation to get all the information to get out to people about how you do that, because it is critical that if you're going to get IA, that you get the right information, that they know that if they can't get up on an internet site, don't have internet, because a lot of people don't have cell service, there are going to be mobile stations they can reach to go to. They can go and reach out to the county judge or EOC to get this type of individual assistance. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people don't know it, because they haven't had TV or communications. And yesterday, I'm going to give you an example. An 85-year-old lady came in from an area of Oneida. She just lost one of the two persons that died in Clay County, her next door neighbor. She had no internet. She knew of no internet. She never used it, but she heard that she could find out about individual assistance, but had no one to help her because she had never done it at age 85. Get the word out to people that there will be places that they can go to register to help an 85-year-old lady, their neighbor, a person who has been shaken, a person who is worried, a person who has lost everything, to get help from whatever respective agency there is. With that, I'm assuming that we'll open it up for questions now.
I have one question from Stu Johnson.
Stu should have come down here and stood in the heat with you all.
He's working remotely today. Do you think the major infrastructure improvements with federal money will come over time?
Yes. You know, there is no way to know at this point in time. You know, and I'm going to say this. Brandon's been out. We've been trying to get hold of Brandon. They say he was on a helicopter somewhere. You try to find Johnny, and I'm talking about Senate members. They're out doing things. We are all out working. But right now, there is no way to know what the dollar amount of the damage is. And as you continue to go through, you're going to continue to accumulate lists that will need repair. They'll be determining what types of monies are needed probably for 6 months at a minimum, to start rebuilding and the infrastructure damage that there is.
We have a historic budget surplus, as you know. Is there any appetite to kind of dip into that amount of money for flood relief?
The three of us were on a call with the governor the other day, and that issue was brought up, similar to what we did in the special session. I think it was Senate Bill 150, which was the West Kentucky Relief Act that put $200 million out for use. The day, Thursday, when this was going on, I reached out to two of our A&R members and started telling them and our budget staff to start looking at draft legislation. Discussion between the three of us, Representative Tackett, I think several others, Representative Hatton, was discussed with the governor Saturday. But it would take the call of a special session to bring us in. But we're not ready. We don't have the figures. We couldn't tell you what it is that we need to do.
Senators, this is open to any of y'all to answer. I'm wondering, is there anybody who you have met or any site that you have seen that has stuck with you over these past few days that you can share to kind of really put into perspective just the breadth of the damage we're seeing here?
Could you repeat that?
Is there anybody whose story you have heard or a site that you have seen that has stuck with you over these past few days that you can share to kind of put into perspective just how bad this is?
Well, I'm going to talk about an 85-year-old lady who saw her neighbor lose their life. And my secretary and I walked up the hill. A lady's house had a 30-foot slide of mud that was causing her whole house to leak. And she looks at me and says, "My house is ruined, my carpet, my furniture. How am I going to replace this on $900 a month?" That's the type of loss of life, loss of property, and nobody could get to her because there was a 6-foot deep ditch that just took her whole road out. That's what you're seeing, and where we went up in the air today, you just don't see what's right in front of you within 15 or 20 feet left or right. You see the full spectrum, and that's the type of thing that's sticking with me, and I'm sure both of these gentlemen have seen the same thing.
Here's the thing, this is what makes these things hard, because the things that stick with me are so personal and the loss is so great, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about it and feel like you're violating the privacy of someone who lost a child or lost their life. I have seen things that honestly I don't think grown adults should see. I have seen families lose the things that they have that are most valuable to them, their past, present, and future, to wash down these rivers. I don't know how some of these families will recover from some of the losses that we've seen. We've seen incredible rescues where they've gotten people out the top of a house. We had a lady that a young man had been calling me. This girl was blowing me up on Facebook. We're getting a lot of Facebook requests. And she had been dating this guy for really about 2 weeks. She gave me his address, had heard from him, so we headed to pick up. We landed in this hauler, and these people poured out, and they were all yelling, you have to go get May, you have to go get May. And I'll let these guys go. And so we couldn't get there on the ground, so the helicopter had to lift over and land, and we found a lady who was in the process of having a diabetic coma. And her house was hotter than it is out here, and all of her, I remember going to her refrigerator because she said she needed her medicine, and you opened it, everything in the freezer had melted down to the floor, and that smell in the house with the heat is really just overwhelming. And to open her refrigerator after all those days of without everything in it was just, pretty well destroyed and rotting, and her medicine was destroyed. And so it became a very critical situation in a hurry to get her out of here. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that because of some of these men here and the Nashville group that we had with us, that she is alive today. And had we been 4 hours later of getting over there from just something as simple as a Facebook tip, they would have found her in that trailer. And so I think our greatest concern for being on the ground when we land to start going through these houses is that you will miss Faye. You're going to miss these people that can't get out. They don't hear the helicopter. They're alone. And that's what I think my fear is, as these days bear on right now, as hot as it is, for people that could not get out with that first wave, that didn't want to leave their home because they're afraid they'd be looted or something. Elderly lady yesterday, in her 70s with 5 kids, an 18-month in there with her, and we were able to get supplies to her, but she didn't want to come out because she had nowhere to go. She was a grandmother raising her grandchildren. And so we turned it over to ground crews to keep an eye on her. But that's a tough position to be in. If something happens to her, you have these small children in a house in a remote area. It's not in our right to tell her she has to go. But that's the stuff I think all of us, when we lay down at night, did you get all the calls? Did you take them all serious? Did you get that stop? And I don't know that ever leaves you after you experience a crisis of this level, having seen the devastation that we've seen.
Let me, to that, it's not the natural order, the natural cycle of life to see your children go before you. And you think about a family that lost 4 children, young children, not teenagers or 20 years old, young children. That's the impact. Those things have happened. Here's something else that would be very helpful. Dr. Douglas is down here, one of our Senate members, to see how he can in his professional capacity. We're going to need professionals to come to Eastern Kentucky in the trades. I've had an easy weekend compared to some people, and I was tearing out carpet and all the things in my father-in-law's house. But we're ready to repair. But we can't find people to repair the HVAC. We can't find people that have the trades and the skills that are going to help not just 1 or 2, but hundreds, if not thousands, rebuild their homes. We need people with the trades and skills to be able to come into Eastern Kentucky to meet the demand that's going to be out there for rebuilding. And with that, I want to kind of turn it over to Senator Turner because he's got kind of the list of things that you all could disseminate information about that would help people here locally and throughout the region.
Thanks, Senator Stivers. Our good friend Andy here has been generous enough. There's a list, and we can get him to make, I guess they've got a copy machine here to make you a list of this. It's got all the temporary housing and shelters in these districts from Floyd and Knott, this all the way to Bell County. I mean, Pine Mountain State Park is open. So, and the public needs to know that. We can only do so much on the ground that you all can do more than a million times, as we'd say, and us doing 1,000. Also, I have a list of this FEMA places that the people can report and get in touch with that you all can put on the news for the public to get. We're trying to disseminate them best we can everywhere as we go, but you all can really help because there's a number of places that in the different counties that they can. One of the problems we heard of too that some people won't leave is because keeping their only thing they have left from getting stolen, damaged, and what have you. Looting was where we stopped today and dropped all that food and water, and all of us were unloading it as fast as we could because it was mucky mud there where we were doing that. And you can look at her boots and see where she was carrying it out in the mud. But they have to have protection of what they've got left, so they can't leave the area. So there's many things that jointly, and as Senator Stivers said, this is going to go on for years. This is not days. And we all know that before in these things, we've had people come, Christian organizations from all over the place, to come and help with this. So the more we can get it out in the national media through you all, and you see it's on all the national media. When I turn it on, it's there. They're airing it for us. So you all send them the feeds and help in this additional request. Thank you all very much.
All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up.
But I just want to follow up on what Senator Stivers is saying about professional trades, but I think also counseling is going to need to be made available for what's happening here. I mean, as an adult myself, like I said, we've seen stuff in there that I just don't think you should see, but the children have also seen these things as well on the ground. We've had them say stuff to us inside this building here, and so I do think that'll be a big part of what the Senate will look at when we start looking at the needs of as we rebuild, about having this stuff available for adults and children. Our churches do a really good job, and Chris could even probably speak to that, but I do think counseling needs to be a big part of it. I think we need to have a big part about where this debris goes that gets picked up and collected from these houses, so that these old asbestos tiles and stuff don't wind up in our creeks, that we're able to collect these and put these in limited access landfills. So it's going to be a long term, but I do think that the Senate is having the big discussions with the House to make these things happen. With that said, thank you all.
All right, guys, thanks for coming.
Andrew, did we get a number on the number of flights?
Okay, so I'm making one more note here about what Senator Smith just said, and we'll get to some of the recaps here. So I've got about 2 pages of notes, and there was a lot in that. So we started with State Senator Brandon Smith, who represents the hazard area, and he said this is a working mission. They have been flying around, he said 250 flights roughly, that's an estimate there, and he's not, as we've seen, he's not been doing interviews until today, because he said he's focused on that mission, getting supplies out there. So it's a team effort. He talked about members of the Senate, he talked about members of the House getting together, all the Eastern Kentucky delegation being together, Democrats, Republicans. It's not a partisan issue. This is an Eastern Kentucky issue for sure. And many counties are coming together and came together as soon as it happened. He talked about the women up there who kind of spearheaded the effort at the airport, the Wendell Ford Airport, to make it almost livable, because it sounds like at the beginning there was not working bathrooms, there was no supplies, that they were trying to get everything together on the fly there. Then Breathitt County Judge Jeff Noble came up, very emotional, talking about the damage in his own county there. He mentioned something I thought was very important. Of course, Breathitt in the governor's report had 8 confirmed deaths, but Judge Noble said that he'd mentioned when they flew over the Clayhole community that they witnessed a body being picked up. So I don't know if that's part of that official report or if that is a potential new death from flooding. So we'll hopefully know more about that later today or tomorrow, but he mentioned that was kind of an important note there. He said he has his staff working nonstop to try to get every holler back open. That's the wording he used, and that's for Eastern Kentucky. That's exactly what I would say too. He said they're walking supplies in some cases. If you can't get to them by foot or by air, they're walking them in. And he mentioned power outages over there. They're still, last check with Kentucky Power, still about 1,465 outages just in Breathitt County. Up next was State Representative Chris Fugate. He represents part of that region. He's in the Chavies area. That's kind of where he is based out of, but he's also the pastor of one of the shelters here in Perry County, the Gospel Light Church. He mentioned there are 65 people right there in that shelter right now, with 25 more potentially coming. He said the first victim they had there, the first person who came in, was a 94-year-old woman. And when she came in there, she had next to nothing, no socks, no shoes, and they took care of her in that church there. He mentioned that people are coming from across the Commonwealth and the country. He mentioned Alabama, talking about how people were coming from Alabama to help. And again, Johnnie Turner, State Senator Johnnie Turner, was up after that from Harlan County, or out of Harlan County, but he represents parts of several counties. He offered his own equipment that he probably has personally to help get things back open there. He compared the damage to kids playing with toys and then just throwing the toys back in a toy box. That the damage was basically looked like the houses and cars were just picked up and thrown. So that's a description I hadn't heard before, but I can absolutely believe it. He said, and this is in his words, this was worse than the 57 flood and the 77 flood on the scope, on the scale of it there. That's a direct quote from him. He mentioned too, very important that we get the word out as news, to leave the contents of your home the way that they were after the flood came through until FEMA can look at them. Okay, take pictures. If you make sure you've got everything documented, because he's right. FEMA looks at all that to kind of do their damage assessment to see how much money you're going to end up qualifying, especially in the individual assistance counties, and those are Breathitt, Clay, Knott, Letcher, Perry, Floyd, and Pike. So again, some on-person locations where you can come in to visit, to see those. Matter of fact, I think we may have that list of those FEMA centers on a full screen. Josh, if you can pull that up there. It's in this same slug here. I'll give you a second to find it. But there are in-person locations for several of those counties. There they are. That was the ones that are open from 7 to 7 there. In Breathitt County, Clay County, Knott County, Letcher County, and Perry County. They have not announced the ones for Floyd and Pike just yet. Governor Beshear said earlier they're still working to get those set up. So the one in Breathitt County is at 421 Jet Drive in Jackson. Clay County is at the Clay Community Center. Knott County, as is most things up in Knott County, is at the Sportsplex. The one in Letcher County is at the Rec Center, the Letcher County Recreation Center. And the one in Perry County is at Hazard Community and Technical College, or HCTC for short. That's the main campus up on the bypass. Now again, once we figure out Pike and Floyd's, we'll get those to you, but these are open daily if you need to go in. It's a complicated process. Governor Beshear's mentioned that. The state lawmakers mentioned that. So again, you might need to even go in and talk to somebody about what things you need to do. But Senator Turner did say to leave the contents of your home in place, or at least make sure they're well documented until FEMA can assess the damage. Okay, Senator Stivers came up next. State Senate President Robert Stivers, I'll get that out here in a second, from Clay County, said he didn't have too much damage in his county. It was very localized there, but he has family in Letcher County, which we heard from his wife is from Letcher County. Her mom and dad live there. He spent the weekend over there. He mentioned that, helping them clean up. He said you can't comprehend the massiveness of the damage until you see it from the air, and I could absolutely believe that. Basically, he gave a timeline of how their day starts really early in the morning. They go all day long doing different things, and at the end of the day, he said, they asked themselves the question, did we do enough? Did we accomplish everything that we set out to accomplish today? He said for folks, and he mentioned well-meaning folks who are sending stuff from all over the place, to focus on the real needs, the critical needs right now. Non-perishable food items, water, cleaning supplies, and toiletries. That's things that people are trying to use to get back on their feet. I know a lot of people are sending clothes. A lot of people are sending stuff that people really don't need. And I will add one thing that I noticed over at LCC the other day, can openers. Just manual crank can openers, because some of these cans don't have pop tops on them, and if you're determined enough, you can find a way to get a can open. But a can opener, a manual can opener, would really help with those non-perishable food items. Again, he also mentioned that the guardsmen at the airport had been there for 5 days. And think about that, 250 rescue flights in 5 days, or at least delivery flights there in 5 days. That's a lot. He said the overall damage will likely far exceed any natural disaster in Kentucky history. Now think about that. We had devastating floods in 57, 77, 84 was one that was brought up when we first covered this last week. And it's hard to believe it's almost been a week already. So that's from Senator Stivers. The overall damage will likely far exceed any natural disaster in Kentucky history. Search and rescue, he gave the stages it's going on: search and rescue, recovery, and rebuild. I think we're kind of in between search and rescue and recovery right now, and of course the rebuilding effort will take a long time. He also talked about the things they asked all of the folks about, things they had seen that they, I guess you could say that they wish they hadn't seen. He mentioned an 85-year-old woman from Oneida came in to ask about the federal assistance, but she had lost her neighbor. That was one of the deaths in Clay County, where they had two over there. It was her neighbor, and just a bad situation overall. No way to estimate the amount of damage, to put a money amount on it yet. And then they would need a special session to set up legislation for state funding, at least. That's in the works, but they're not ready for that. That's what he said yet. He said they still have to compile that damage numbers, that assessment for that. Senator Smith also came back and said it was hard to talk about the things that he's seen. He said he's seen things that no one should ever see. Talked about mental health for the future, how counselors are going to be needed, how a lot of things are going to be needed for the future. He also talked about he got a Facebook tip from a girl that was looking for her boyfriend, and they were flying over the area that he was last seen in and stumbled across someone in a diabetic coma. And the person, I guess another person in the house, was like, go get the medicine out of the refrigerator. And they went to the refrigerator, and they had been without power for a while. Everything, including the insulin, was ruined. So again, that's a situation. He said in his words, it was critical, and the person would not have lived if they didn't get there when they did. So thankfully, that's another number we don't have to add to the death list here. 37 so far. Senator Stivers said they need people to come in and help rebuild, so skilled carpenters and plumbers, tradesmen, things like that. When that process starts, which has not happened yet, again, 7 days in, we're still in the search and recovery process there. Senator Turner said many people won't leave because they want to protect what little bit they have left. And that's sad, because looting is an ongoing problem, and it shouldn't be this way. And Senator Smith came back on at the end to talk about how this is going to be a long-term situation, not a days and months situation or even weeks, but potentially years before all this is kind of rebuilt there. Let's go back real quick, because they touched on something I want to make sure about. Let's go to the cooling centers graphic first, and then we'll go back to the weather computer for the heat advisory and the heat safety tips. So let's pull up it's in the system EMPS there we go, the cooling centers that are open right now. As the heat advisory has been underway for a little bit more than an hour in Breathitt County. It's at the library on College Avenue at Jackson, Floyd County at the Floyd Community Center just off 80 at Langley, Johnson County, the City of Paintsville Recreation Center on Preston Street, the Knott County Sportsplex in Knott County over at Liebern. Let's go to our next one there. The one over at Letcher is at Letcher County Central High School. In Whitesburg, Perry's is at the Senior Citizen Center on Perry Park Road. Pikes is at Valley Elementary School there in Pikeville, and Wolfe County has one open there at the Senior Citizen Center in Campton. Now, I believe that one is for the Breathitt County folks, because they have closed their courthouse down and their schools were damaged by flooding. So I'd say that's why that's their cooling center up there in Campton, which if you've been through Breathitt County, Campton is not that far away. So let's go back to the weather computer now and show you the heat advisory. And you see there it's in effect for several counties in our region. Now the ones back over to the north and east, like Lawrence County and Wayne and Mingo and Logan counties in West Virginia, they met the criteria from the National Weather Service office at Charleston. That's at least a heat index of 100 degrees expected, and they met that. But the other counties, from Pike County all the way over to Clay County in the National Weather Service Jackson coverage area, they did not meet the criteria. But we knew that people would be working outside, or they knew that people would be working outside, and it was critical to make sure that they had the information they needed to know that it was going to be dangerously hot, and they, out of the goodness of their hearts, put out that from not only today but through tomorrow until 8 o'clock tomorrow night for parts of Clay and Owsley over toward Breathitt, Leslie and Perry, Knott and Letcher, Floyd and Pike counties. And their criteria is even higher than Charleston's at 105. So again, it's going to be a hot day air temperature wise. It is going to be a hot day when you factor in the heat index near 100. So again, a lot of folks without power. At last check a couple of hours ago, it was still more than 5,000. It went back up a little bit. Breathitt County has the most there, or no, excuse me, Perry County has the most as the last check from Kentucky Power with more than 2,400. So again, make sure you're trying to stay safe and stay cool as best you can. Check on those who are without power and don't have air conditioning. Check on those. Try to get them to go to a cooling center if at all possible. We mentioned all those in the different counties. If you are working outside, I would not be doing it right now. Go inside if you can. Try to find some shade. Try to stay hydrated. Use the sunscreen if you have it. Some people may not have it since their houses are washed out and washed away. Take breaks as often as you need to. And of course, lightweight, light colored clothing is your friend if you have any. Some folks basically just made it out with the clothes on their back, so they may not have that option. So again, dangerous heat, and it's already in the 80s and 90s out there. It was close to 90 in Monticello when we started this cut-in a little earlier. So again, we will continue to bring you updates as we get them. That was a very informative news conference there, as in what they brought to the table, several different perspectives from our area lawmakers there serving the mountain counties, and some of the Judge Executive Noble there with a very emotional, I don't want to call it testimony, but a conversation about how things were going in his county. So again, we're going to get through this. We are mountain strong. We are Appalachian strong. We've got so much more to tell you about coming up starting at 4 on our 4 o'clock news throughout the evening. And we will keep you posted day by day and development by development on our website at WYMT.com. For Brandon Robinson, this has been a special report on Eastern Kentucky flood relief efforts.
Your bathroom looking old.